Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Hoyt and welcome to the Concerned Citizen Talk Show. This is a talk show that's open to the public. Any Vermont resident, if you're a citizen of Vermont and you're concerned about anything, then I welcome you to come sit down with me and we'll discuss it. Today we got Dion Lachey, who's concerned about, what's your concern?
Voting irregularities and voter fraud.
Voter fraud, and again, that's a big one. My computer has exploded as of lately from all the different complaints, but yours is very interesting. I think a lot of other people can find a common link with it, but tell us your story. What's your experience in the 2020 presidential election here in Bennington?
Well, what happened was I received a ballot, as everyone else probably presumably did, in the mail, probably about 2 or whatever months before. We went to fill it out and we hung on to it, me and my partner. We hung on to the ballot until the day of the vote. And we filled out the envelope, but wasn't sure if we were supposed to bring the envelope in or not, so I brought it in anyways. But then they wanted, I went to the queue where the table was, for my name, and to get checked off, and woman wanted my envelope and my partner at her table wanted her envelope, and I did give the envelope to her, but then I got kind of suspicious about that and I went and asked to verify whether or not that was something that I was supposed to do, and then she came over and said, no, you don't need to give the envelope or anything like that, and she said that basically
So they gave it back to you?
They gave it back to me, and then she just said I could go over to and slide the ballot in the box there, which I did, but she didn't have me sign a waiver, which I thought was kind of weird. And I did see her check off something on the paper. She had the paper open, and she checked something off, and presumably it was my name.
All right, so let's stop you right there and just recap for everybody. So you received a mail-in ballot. Did you request a mail-in ballot?
No, I did not.
You didn't, okay, but you received one. And unlike me, I discarded mine. I just went in and voted, right? But you actually hung on to yours and the envelope, so you went back in and basically, it was already filled out. And again, you gave them the envelope and then took the envelope back, gave them your ballot, right? Yep. And again, they checked your name off. You said, I'm Dion, and okay, and all right. So from there, what happened?
And then I left, and I didn't think much of it. And then a friend of mine contacted me and said, well, you better check my voter page at the Secretary of State. So that's what I did.
Right, looking for your vote. And again, everybody that's watching, you can go to the Vermont Secretary of State webpage, or any Secretary of State, doesn't matter what state you're in, my voter page, and actually check your ballot. So you went there. And what happened? What did you find on the Secretary's page?
It was totally blank, and I went through it 3 different times. I used my driver's license, and then I used as it requested, and I used
your social,
and
right.
Nothing had popped up the same message. A message popped up like a square thing saying to contact your town clerk's office immediately,
right.
Or whatever.
So there was an error in it, basically.
Yeah.
They couldn't find you in the system, so you needed to contact your clerk. And just on a side note, again, I can go to, it's my voter page at the Vermont Secretary of State's website, and I know my vote hasn't counted yet. Here we are 4 or 5 days after elections, and my vote has not been received. My girlfriend's vote has not been received. At least 50 or 60 other people that I know have not been received. And before you continue your story, I want to tell you about Election Day, because I saw an anomaly at the polls in action while it was happening, and we actually did a live video, because I went down for about an hour, and a number of people who were coming out of the voting polls were telling me, geez, Kevin, I got in there and I wasn't registered, right? And they couldn't figure that out, and that's going to come back around to your story. But they weren't registered, so they actually had to fill out all the registration forms before they were allowed to vote, and it was enough of them, so again, it was noticeable, and we actually did a video to let other Vermonters know, hey, you better go check out and make sure that you're registered. And that led to a woman who actually got a mail-in ballot and mailed it back in, thought she voted, and then later on, because of my video, she checked and she found out she wasn't registered either. So she was obviously registered at one point. They mailed her a ballot. And then after she voted before Election Day, she was somehow purged. So when Election Day actually came, she wasn't physically registered with the secretary. And I know what happens there. They toss your vote if you're not registered. So what did you end up doing when you called the clerk?
So I was told who to contact and stuff. So I tried to get a hold of Cassidy.
Yep.
And she wasn't there. I didn't check until I think it was like the 15th.
She's on vacation.
Yeah,
Amazing. Our town clerk seems to get a lot of vacation time here in Bennington. And what timing, too? Tax day? That seems odd to me. It was just, again, ironically, it was right when we started asking questions and asking documents that she went on vacation.
Right.
So she wasn't there. That's our town clerk, Cassandra Bardall. So you were, again, transferred then to Kayla, I'm assuming, the assistant clerk?
Kayla, yeah, we had some exchanges. I was first initially told to contact the Stu Hurd, the town manager there.
Yeah.
And so I spit him an email, then I got an email back saying that, I was told that you were on the registry, which I wasn't. And so by the time all said and done, it was going on to like the 16th, 17th of the month. And then finally I was able to get in touch with Kayla,
Right, the assistant clerk.
Yeah, and she checked and she said, it took her a few minutes, and then she came back and said, it was because they had a system change or computer software change or something, and I somehow fell off because and this was 5 years ago, so I thinking, okay, so I haven't been on there for 5 years. That sounded kind of funny.
Right. Did you vote last year?
Yeah, I did. I voted the
You
primary, and I've been voting.
A lot of the voters coming out of the polls were telling me, again, and this is secondary, what they were saying, the clerk was telling them was that if you haven't voted in 2 major elections, then you're automatically omitted. And I don't think that's true. And all the people that I spoke with actually voted in March of this year, and again in the last election also. So that seems odd to me, just to throw that in there.
And plus, they claimed my name was, when I went to the table, they claimed my name was on the checklist.
Right.
And they checked me off. So, but it was almost like I was ghost. It was called ghost voting. Like I was voting, but not.
Right. Well, the long and short of it, which we haven't actually said yet, is you weren't registered, correct? You found out that you are not on the voting registry. 5 years ago, again, is what he was talking about. He was purged. So, right, how would you have been checked off the list, right?
Right.
I don't know. So what do you think happened to your vote this year? I mean, do you think it counted?
I think the logical thing that would have happened with this is I think I was not told the whole truth. I don't believe I was told the truth about this. I think what actually happened is around or about the day of the voting, they have a switch or something, they turned me off on the record.
On election day.
On election day, yes, go figure. So
Right.
I think that's what happened, because my partner was on, but mine was off. So
Right.
how do you explain that? And
So just like my friend in Pownell, they would have looked at your vote within the next day or two, and again then matched it to the registry, which you wouldn't have been on, and your vote would have been tossed.
yeah, because it would have made sense, because if it was 5 years and we had 5 years lapse, then somebody would have said something and said, geez, you're not on the list anymore, you can't vote because, but see, things don't make sense.
They don't
things, they don't make sense.
They
It's
don't.
like, how can I 5 years ago and not be notified?
Well, and another remarkable thing, just the overall voters. Vermont has a total population of 625,742 people that call these mountains home, right? So we're going to say 625,000. Out of that, 115,000 roughly are kids or under voting age, leaves approximately 510,000 people. And the state of Vermont claims that 506,000 people are actually registered to vote, which is an unbelievable number to me. And again, based on field experiences and stories from people like you who all of a sudden weren't registered, I find that really hard to believe myself. So, what do you think the cure is here? What are you asking for? I mean, again, it sounds to me like your vote didn't count. Here we are 25 days after the election. My vote, I don't think counted. My girlfriend's vote didn't count. What's the what do we do?
I submitted something to a Deb Bolito or something.
Deb Bolito, that's the GOP chair for Vermont.
Yeah, and sent information about what happened and stuff, and I was told that that was the person to investigate, but she had already been investigating at the time a Grand Isle case.
Right.
So I don't think anything's going on. Where is the GOP in all this? Where's the people investigating? We need to get our act together.
We do.
And again, we need to put aside our differences or anything like that, or any issues or anything like that. We need to come together, because what's on the line right now is our Constitution. So our freedoms and liberties that we cherish, and we need to stop playing games, and we need to get real and start standing up and coming together, because we're in trouble. Yeah. Everything that you've worked for and everything is going to be gone. It's going to be taxed to hell, and you're not going to have freedom. It's going to be dictated.
Right. And again, you're absolutely right. This isn't about red or blue or who you voted for. We haven't even talked about who you voted for.
Right.
Just the fact that your vote didn't count, which is alarming. Now, I will put out that you're a Republican. You told me that the last time we met, and I'm a Republican, that always seems to lean this direction, doesn't it? The cheating. But again, I know this is bipartisan. I know a lot of good Democrats out there. I'm friends with a lot of good people who have been fooled, right? And again, I think the real Democrat enemy is not the people, it's the government, the actual people in charge. And I think the GOP is just as guilty. We've called on Deb Bolito, who's the chair, on several occasions, and I'm still waiting for something. Colleen Harrington, we did an audit in 2018, Colleen and I, and we spent thousands and thousands of hours on it, and we found roughly 60 to 70% fraud, and that's before we even heard about these voting machines and the electronic cheating. And again, it was funny, they told you was a glitch in the system. It makes you wonder if it's the Dominion system that we're talking about. Have you heard anything about that? The Dominion stuff? And
I was following it not on social, not on the news networks, but on other platforms. And pretty much, from what I heard, I've been following Giuliani.
Right. Sidney Powell's been having some remarkable things on it too.
And basically, what it is Dominion is a system within a built-in system that's used in 28 states in the country, and within that system is embedded is a system called Smartmatic, which is directly linked to Venezuelan.
Right. It's from Canada.
Yeah.
Originally made in Venezuela for Chavez.
Yeah, Dominion is a system is a Canadian product, but then within the system itself, there's another system.
Software.
It's called Smartmatic. I was trying to remember what that was.
And let me just ask you, as an American, if you were governor, would you trust our voting system with a foreign entity? Like, would you buy a foreign voting system? And on the federal level, they're not even counting them in the U.S., right? It's in Germany and in Spain. This is scary stuff to me, and I think there's some real bombs in terms of unprecedented cheating and proof. Everybody's asking for the election proof of election fraud, but I think it's there if you just look.
Yeah, the Smartmatic is a system that had played a part in as far as the early 2000s, and then they suspended them, and then oddly enough, in the last few years, I guess, from the reports, they found that Smartmatic was let to come back in on a subcontract, so they let those people back in to play ball with Dominion or interplay with that system.
Right. And Dominion owns 3/4 of them. Most of the voting machines, just the way it went through trust deals and buyouts, Dominion owns 3/4 of them. And yes, by the way, we use Dominion in Vermont, right? We've been using Dominion in Vermont. Now, again, the audit that Colleen and I did was, I guess, more conventional fraud, where we have fake names, fake IDs, people that live out of state or out of country. There was a lot of things. And the real bad news is we could trace the fraud through our audit all the way back to 1975. So 45 years this has been going on, and you wonder, we got the same politicians in office for 40 or 50 years. I think maybe we've discovered the reason why, right? So, and again, I don't know from here what to do other than another people's audit, and that's what we're about to do. If you are a Vermonter, you can go to my voters page and check and see if your ballot was received. Another trend that we found out is a lot of the walk-ins from election day, they haven't been submitted yet. And that's really odd to me. But so all the major cities, it's college towns again, like Bennington, all the people who mailed in their ballots, they seem to have been received. But if you've been a walk-in, you should go to my voters page and check it out, because I don't know if you've been received. Mine hasn't, and everybody that I've talked to hasn't been. But my theory behind that, and again, this is pure speculation at this point, again, out of the 510,000 voting age adults in Vermont state, we had 355,000 vote, which is incredible. That's an incredibly high number, the most in history, right? And again, I don't believe that number to start with, and I think it's because they've overinflated the ballot. So now what happened is we broke the cheat scale. Enough of us actually came out, enough patriots, enough, I think, Donald Trump supporters and Americans who care about their freedom and liberties came out and voted. So now if we actually count all the walk-ins, we've got way too many votes, is the long and short of it. And again, that's my theory, but I wish somebody could prove me wrong. I wish they could. So what else do we have to say on election fraud?
I was just devastated, to go back, I was just devastated to find out. And I didn't really think to look before. I never, because they always vote, exercise our civil.
You trusted the system.
And I never thought that something like that would happen, and I have no way to verify whether or not that my vote counted. There's no way, unless somebody from the outside coming in, somebody, that's not going to take, a bump loss of any kind, coming in to, higher up to investigate this whole matter.
I agree. It's got to be an outside agency. We don't want them to audit themselves.
No, because Vermont, people, I don't know what's going on with this state.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, again, the audit that we did, I think, is solid, indisputable evidence of not only human error and irregularities, but also out and out cut and dry fraud. And unfortunately, Deb, the GOP chair, or the Secretary of State, Jim Condos, or the Attorney General, DJ Donovan, these people, they just refuse to look at it, which is the bottom line. And the scary part is the people have nowhere to go. And actually, that's why I ran for office. I'm a deer hunter, and I got so mad and upset that I'm actually ran for governor. And it all started because my vote in 2018 didn't count. And I'll tell you another story. I've got a good friend, Jesse Lacrosse. For years, Jesse's a military guy, so he's automatically registered to vote through the military, but he never used his right to vote. And I argued with him for 20 years that it's important and your vote counts. And after 20 years, Jesse actually, the first time ever, he voted in 2018. And the long and short of it, he was on our corruption list where Jesse's vote didn't count. And I don't even know what to tell my friend. And that's, I guess, one of the messages I'm saying here to people is don't be discouraged. We have to still vote. It's the only way to win. And I think we actually did it in 2020 where we beat the scale. Now we've just got to do a full audit and do some cleanup with accountability this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's the same people. Again, ironically, it's not like this is the first time that we've caught them. We've caught them right here in Bennington 3 or 4 times in my lifetime, and it always seems to be the same people, and nothing ever seems to happen, right? And that's the unbelievable part, I think, for a lot of people right now. I think in 2020 things are going to happen, or I should say 2021.
Yeah.
I think there's ramifications here. We know that Vermont State is fraudulent. I said as a candidate for governor and senate before we even voted that unless we have a voter ID system in place, then we should exclude Vermont from the presidential election because we know that it's that fraudulent. What are your thoughts on voter ID?
I strongly support voter ID. I think we really need that in place because to protect the integrity of our voting and to assure people that are voting legally in our state that are not coming in from the outside and when you have voter ID you initially build sort of a tracking mechanism where you can track the vote.
Right. And again, what about all the proponents now that are going to come in, or opponents, sorry, and say that you're racist for saying that?
I don't see what's racist about that. It's, you got to have an ID for everything else, everything else you do,
Cigarettes,
Yeah.
beer,
everything.
right. In fact, in today's day and age, you don't want to walk around any city, any modern city, without ID if you get caught without ID.
It's just logical.
Right. Right. And it's funny, again, the left's argument there is, again, they go after minorities, how minorities, don't have a phone or they don't have ID or they can't, find the post office, or I find that racist, to be frank. I think everybody's got an ID, and I do think it's straightened out. Here in Vermont, a lot of people know, or don't know. In Burlington, we actually elect illegal immigrants, people without, they're not U.S. citizens, vote, and it's on an honor system. We can actually vote, but they can't vote for president, just within the state. And again, they give their scouts honor. Again, these are the people who are here illegally. And again, I'm full for immigration. I don't have a problem with immigration if it's done legally, but we're talking about illegal immigrants here, right? So I'm against that too. You also? Yeah. We should be citizens. We should be Vermonters. That's one of the remarkable things that we found from the audit. Basically, Vermont election rolls have never been audited in history, the entire history of the country. We've never looked at them, and I think that's a problem. And again, we've got, through our audit, we can trace it back to 1975, where people they remain on the election roll forever. It's very, very hard, actually, to get somebody off of an election roll unless you're a Republican. It must be in 2020, and then it seems pretty easy.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Well, even more scary in our audit of people who voted and their vote was tossed is we've got a number of people who didn't vote, but someone else voted for them. And actually, me and Colleen are victims on that category too in a different election. But all these things, I think, warrant an audit.
Yeah,
that's all we're asking for.
And the weirdest thing too is at a switch. I mean, within 5 minutes or so, she was able to turn me back on. Now, because I went back to check and I was back on.
Right.
And it was like I never left.
Right. Well, that's an interesting part of the story too, because I think it provides culpability. I think it's, again, what happened when they determined, now you called in, you talked with the assistant clerk who realized you weren't registered,
I had to get my driver's license.
But reassured you with the town manager, but your vote still counted even though you weren't registered. And then they re-registered you, right?
On the 17th.
Right, on the 17th of November, you had to give your driver's license, all the info, and you're back on. And what you're telling me is in the paperwork, and he even brought it, we're not going to show you, but in the paperwork it says you never fell off, really. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah,
so,
2002.
So again, why do you think they would
and
go...
my partner too.
Right. Do you think your vote counted then? Did you? I mean, so now if you look at it from an outside perspective, I'm going to look at the Vermont voting registry and you're on it, and you told me that you passed a vote, and what they're going to tell you is you're in the book of record, right, where they checked your name off the list. Yeah. So they're going to tell you that your vote counted. Do you think your vote counted?
It would be just a ghost ballot. Would be just a ballot without tracking or without a name or registered attached to it.
Right, which would be a problem.
It would be a problem.
Right, for the overall numbers.
Because they wouldn't be able to legally tabulate that.
Right, just like in Bennington in 2018, we had a discrepancy of 332 names. That's between the town registry and the state registry. Now those names should match, those numbers should match. Here in Bennington, where we pay our clerk over $100,000 a year, giving her assistant and man, all sorts of vacation time, she had 332 discrepancies, and I think that's too many. How about you? Mm-hmm. One's too many. And my question for everybody watching too is how much, you always want proof of election fraud. I think you're a clear case of not only fraud, but them trying to covering it up after. I think I'm a clear case of fraud, and a lot of people watching are, right? So here's the proof. You're the proof. Don't believe me. Don't believe him. Look at him. He's got a mohawk. You can't believe this guy. You're going to have to go and look for yourself, and the way to do that is through my voter page. And all we're asking for is fair elections, fair investigations, and I'd actually like to prosecute the bad guys for a change, even if it's our own corrupt legislators or government or officials at every level. I think this is a lot bigger than anybody can imagine.
Yeah, and it's just snowballing. It's getting bigger.
It is.
And
again,
we need to rise up and stand up. Otherwise, your fundamental freedoms are gone. And that's not kidding. I'm not kidding.
No, and even if you're a Biden supporter right now, again,
anybody.
Right. If you can't go with this just because it's going with your guy this time, because think of the ramifications when it's not your guy, or think about what happens when you find out who your guy really is, which I think is going on right now with some of his cabinet picks, and again the draconian lockdowns and all the stuff that we're going through in 2020 is pretty incredible, and I'm sick of it. I think they're sick of it. So this is what we're looking forward to unless we do stand up.
And it doesn't matter if you believe or don't believe or what background or what have you. If you're not free, I'm not free.
The loss of your rights is the loss of my rights. And everybody has to realize that at some point. And again, we're talking about the very foundation of democracy. Mm-hmm. Do you want fair elections? And my guess is everybody watching is going to say yes to that. So we do have to come together as a bipartisan community, and the only thing we're asking for is to look right at what we think is a problem. But again, this isn't about Donald Trump. It's not about Joe Biden. It's about us. And again, we have to focus on Vermont state and our own individual communities, I think, and that's what I'm trying to focus on. Again, I have my neck's out there. I have a stake in this election, right? I think I did a lot better than they said that I did. But I'd like to know the real numbers, and I'm ready to accept defeat. But I haven't conceded yet. No one's asked me like it matters, but I still haven't conceded because I know the numbers they're giving us are not real, and I want to find the real numbers, and then I want ramifications for the people responsible. Because it's a huge lie.
We got to figure out other sources to get you so you go
out there.
Well, so you can go viral. We need to.
And it's not even about me. I appreciate that in the plug, but it's much bigger than one man or an election. It's never about an election for me. It's about, again, saving our homes and our community and our democracy, our very freedom for my kids and my grandkids. Look, I love my rights, right? All my rights and freedoms that the Constitution gives me, I love. And with rights come responsibility, right? And the same Constitution that gives me the rights gives me the responsibility to stand up against a tyrannical government. And Governor Scott's got our kids ratting out parents about Thanksgiving holidays. The man just canceled Christmas. He canceled deer hunting in Vermont state, right? That's about as un-American, and I've never seen such an attack on our culture, not only in Vermont state, but on the United States, right?
So we're going to catch COVID deer hunting.
We're going to catch COVID deer hunting, which is remarkable. And again, maybe it's about self-reliance and sustenance. And have you seen the prices of food lately, right? A lot of Vermonters depend on that. And again, it's about shutting that down. We have to rely on the government. At least that's how I see it. And I'm not in. I'm out already. I believe in choice. And the truth is, I don't want to govern anybody. I want to govern out-of-control system. You guys don't need me to tell you what to do. I trust you. You're Vermonters. You're the best people on earth. I want to put this open invitation to anybody watching this show, whether it's higher taxes or our prosecutors targeting citizens or green energy or any issue that you are concerned with. If you're a Vermonter and you have a concern, come on, it's called the Concerned Citizen for a reason, and it's an open invite to anybody who wants to join me, like Mr. Lachey, who has an incredible story. I hope other people look into the election fraud. It's massive. I'm not going to let it go, so you can count on more videos from me. But hit me up on private messenger on Facebook or give me a phone call if you're interested in coming on the show and voicing your concerns. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a great day. Until next time, thanks for telling your story, buddy. How's your trust in government lately?
Not good.
How's your trust
Not
in the
even
media
not even local.
lately?
Oh, no good.
The media, it's amazing to
I
me
don't
the
even
media
wanna-
doesn't cover this.
I go to other sources.